The red sun was falling behind the mountains when one walked out of Settlement 7. The ground under his boots was dry and cracked like old skin. Dust rose with every step he took. He pulled his cloth mask higher over his nose and kept walking. 11 years. That was how long since the last rain fell on 442B. One remembered that day. He was 23 years old, standing in the field with his father, watching the clouds gather. His father had smiled and said the hard times were ending. The rain fell for 2 hours. Then the clouds left and never came back. Now his father was dead. The water killed him in a way. He gave his daily ration to a sick neighbor and died 3 days later. People called him a fool. One called him a hero. But heroes did not live long on this world. One was a water salvager. His job was to find water in places others could not reach. Old pipes, underground tanks. Sometimes he found a few liters. Sometimes he found nothing. The colonial government paid him in water rations, and he shared them with his sister and her daughter Bora. Today he carried 1 bottle in his pack, just one. It had taken him 3 months of dangerous work to earn it. He had climbed into collapsed buildings. He had crawled through tunnels filled with dust and darkness. He had nearly died twice, all for 1 bottle of clean water. He was saving it for Bora. The little girl was only 6 years old, but she looked younger. Her cheeks were thin. Her eyes were too big for her face. She rarely played anymore because playing used energy, and energy needed water. She just sat quietly and watched the red sky through the window. Walked beside one now, carrying Bora on her back. The little girl's head rested on her mother's shoulder. They were heading to the outer wells to check if the government had released any extra rations. It was a long walk, but the transport vehicles only ran once a week, and they could not wait. The outer edges of Settlement 7 were empty. Most buildings here had been abandoned years ago when the population moved closer to the central water station. Now they were just shells of metal and stone, slowly being eaten by the dust. One stopped walking. He saw something strange ahead. There was a dead tree at the edge of the settlement. It had been dead for as long as one could remember. Its branches reached up toward the sky like fingers begging for water that would never come. And under that tree, something was sitting. It was not human. One had seen aliens before. Ships passed through this system sometimes, though they rarely stopped. The colony had no trading value anymore, but he had never seen an alien like this one. It was roughly human-shaped but taller, with long, thin arms and legs. Its skin was strange. It shimmered and shifted colors like oil floating on water. Blues and greens and purples moved across its surface in slow waves, but the shimmer was weak now, fading. The colors were turning gray. The alien was dying. Grabbed one's arm, her fingers dug into his skin. "Keep walking," she whispered. "It is not our problem." One did not move. He watched the alien struggle to breathe. Its chest rose and fell in quick, shallow movements. Its mouth was open, and the inside looked dry and cracked, just like the ground. One's voice was harder now. "Keep walking now." But Bora lifted her head from her mother's shoulder. Her big eyes found the alien under the tree. "Mama," she said softly, "what is that?" "Nothing," said. "It is nothing, look away." "It looks sad," Bora said. "It looks thirsty." One felt something twist in his chest. He walked toward the tree. Hissed his name, but he did not stop. He knelt down in front of the alien and looked at it closely. It had 3 eyes arranged in a triangle on its face, 2 where human eyes would be, and 1 in the center of its forehead. All 3 eyes were open, but they were dull and unfocused. Then the alien saw the bottle at one's hip. Its 3 eyes moved slowly, finding the shape of the container. Something changed in its face. Not hope exactly, more like recognition, like it understood what water was and what it meant to not have any. The alien did not speak. It did not reach out its hand. It just looked at the bottle, then looked at one, then closed its eyes as if accepting what was coming next. Came up behind her brother. One, listen to me. I know what you are thinking. Do not do it. I am not thinking anything, one said quietly. Yes, you are. I can see it on your face. You look just like Father did before she stopped. Her voice broke. That water is for Bora, your niece, your blood. You worked 3 months for it. You almost died for it. I know. Then get up and walk away. One looked back at his sister. Her eyes were wet, but on this planet no one could afford to cry real tears. The water was too valuable. What is it? He asked. Do we know? I do not know and I do not care, said. It is not human. The law says resources go to humans first, always. You could be arrested for wasting water on it. You could be exiled. Exile meant death. The wasteland outside the settlements had no water, no shelter, no mercy. People sent into exile lasted a few days at most. One understood all of this. He understood the logic. He understood the law. He understood that his sister was right and that he should stand up and walk away and never think about this moment again. But he also understood something else. He understood that his father had given water to a stranger because that was what good people did. He understood that his grandmother used to tell stories about the old earth, about a time when humans helped each other without asking for anything in return. He understood that humanity was not measured by how well you survived, but by what you were willing to sacrifice. The alien opened its eyes again. A thin, silvery liquid was leaking from the corners of its 3 eyes. It was crying. One did not know if aliens could feel sadness the way humans did, but he knew what tears looked like. He knew what desperation looked like. He knew what it meant to be alone and dying and forgotten. Mama, Bora said from behind them, the rainbow person is crying. Made a sound that was half anger and half grief. One, please, I am begging you, think about Bora, think about me. We need that water. One reached for the bottle at his hip. His hand was shaking slightly. He could feel the weight of it against his palm. Such a small thing, such a simple thing, just water in a container. But on this world it was everything. It was life and death held in his fingers. He looked at the alien. It looked back at him. He thought about Bora growing thinner every day. He thought about working herself to exhaustion. He thought about his father dying in that small room, his lips cracked and dry, his eyes peaceful because he had done what he believed was right. One made his choice. He unscrewed the cap of the bottle. The sound was small in the quiet of the dead settlement. Behind him began to cry softly. Bora watched with her big, serious eyes. One lifted the bottle to the alien's mouth and began to pour. The water flowed over cracked gray lips. The alien drank slowly at first, then faster as its body remembered what water felt like. Its shimmer began to return, faint colors moving across its skin like the first light of dawn. Fell to her knees in the dust. One did not look back at her. He kept pouring until the bottle was empty, until there was nothing left. He had given away everything. Now he would face whatever came next. The empty bottle fell from one's hand and landed in the dust with a soft sound. He stared at it for a long moment. Such a small thing, such a simple thing, and now it was gone. The alien was still drinking the last drops from its lips. Its skin was changing. The gray color was fading, replaced by those strange shifting colors that moved like liquid light. Blues and greens and deep purples flowed across its body in slow waves. It was beautiful in a way that one had never seen before. Behind him was still on her knees. Her shoulders were shaking, but she had stopped crying. There was no water to spare for tears. When she spoke, her voice was flat and empty. You killed us, she said. You killed your own family for a stranger. One did not answer. He did not know what to say. Bora climbed down from her mother's back and walked toward the alien, reached for her daughter, but the little girl was already too far. She stopped a few steps away from the creature and looked up at it with curious eyes. Hello, Bora said. Are you feeling better now? The alien turned its 3 eyes toward the child. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the alien made a sound. It was soft and musical, like wind moving through hollow pipes. It almost sounded like a word, but one could not understand it. "Bora, come back here," said sharply. But Bora did not move. She reached out her small hand toward the alien. "My name is Bora," she said. "What is your name?" The alien looked at the child's hand. Then slowly, it extended one of its own hands. Its fingers were long and thin, with too many joints. They bent in ways that human fingers could not. But when those strange fingers touched Bora's palm, the little girl smiled. "Your hand is warm," Bora said, "like sunshine." One felt something strange in his chest. Fear, maybe, or wonder. He was not sure anymore. The alien rose to its full height. One had to step back. The creature was tall, nearly 3 meters, and its body seemed to unfold like paper being smoothed out. It stood over them like a tower made of shifting colors and strange angles. For a moment, one thought the alien might hurt them. He stepped between it and Bora, ready to protect his niece with his body if needed. But the alien made no threatening moves. It simply looked down at him with those 3 eyes. Then it placed one long hand on one's chest. The touch was warm, just like Bora had said. Warm and gentle. One could feel it through his thin shirt, spreading across his skin like water soaking into dry earth. And then the alien spoke. Not with sound. The words came from inside one's own head. They bloomed there like flowers opening, each one clear and perfect and strange. "You gave what you could not spare." One gasped. He tried to step back, but his feet would not move. The alien's hand stayed on his chest, and the words kept coming. "This is noted. This is remembered. This will be answered." The alien removed its hand. One could breathe again. He stumbled backward, nearly falling, but caught him. Brother and sister held each other as the alien began to walk away. It moved differently now. Before, it had been weak and slow, barely able to hold itself upright. Now it walked with long, smooth strides, its feet barely touching the dust. The colors on its skin grew brighter with every step. "Wait," one called out. He did not know why. "Who are you? What are you?" The alien stopped but did not turn around. One more thought appeared in one's mind, clear as morning light. "We listen, we watch, we remember." Then the alien walked into the desert. The heat shimmer rose from the ground, bending light and air, and within moments the creature was gone. There was nothing left but empty land and red sky. Pushed her brother away. Her eyes were hard now, angry. "What did it say to you?" she demanded. One shook his head slowly. "I do not know. Something about remembering, about answering." "Answering what? What did you do?" He had no answer for her. They walked home in silence. The sun set behind them, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Bora fell asleep on her mother's back, tired from the long walk, did not look at her brother. She did not speak to him. The distance between them felt wider than the desert. When they reached their small home in the central settlement, finally broke the silence. "You need to leave," she said, "before they come for you." One sat down heavily on a worn chair. "Who?" "The enforcers. Someone saw what you did. Someone always sees. They will report you for wasting water on a non-human. You know the punishment. Exile, death by thirst in the wasteland." One closed his eyes. He should have felt afraid. He should have felt regret. But when he searched his heart, he found only a strange calm. He had done what he believed was right. Whatever came next, he would face it. "I will not run," he said. "You have to run, one, please." "And go where?" "There is nowhere to run on this world. The settlements all share information. The wasteland kills faster than the enforcers." Knelt in front of her brother. Her anger was gone now, replaced by fear. "Then we hide you. We tell them you were sick. We tell them." A knock on the door stopped her words. They looked at each other. The knock came again, harder this time, then a voice from outside. "Open the door. Colonial enforcement. We have questions about water theft." grabbed one's arm. "The back window, you can." "No," one stood up. He walked to the door. "Take care of Bora. Tell her I love her." One. He opened the door. 3 enforcers stood outside. They wore the gray uniforms of the colonial government, and each one carried a shock rod at their belt. The one in front was a woman with short hair and cold eyes. She looked at one without any expression. "You are one, water salvager, registration number 749. "Yes." "You are under arrest for violation of resource priority law. You gave water to a non-human entity. This is a capital offense." One nodded slowly. "I understand." The enforcer seemed surprised by his calm. Most people begged or lied or tried to fight. One did none of these things. He simply held out his hands. They put chains on his wrists. The metal was cold and heavy. Behind him, he could hear crying again, and Bora waking up and asking what was happening. He wanted to turn around and look at them one more time, but he forced himself to keep walking. The enforcers led him through the settlement. People stopped to watch. Some looked away in shame. Others stared with hungry eyes, already calculating how to divide his water rations among themselves. This was what the drought had done to them. It had turned neighbors into strangers and friends into enemies. They took him to the exile pit. It was exactly what its name suggested. A deep hole in the ground, lined with smooth stone so that no one could climb out. A metal grate covered the top, locked with chains. One had walked past it many times but had never looked too closely. He did not want to think about the people who waited inside, counting their final hours. Now he would be one of them. The enforcers unlocked the grate and pushed him forward. One fell into the darkness. He landed hard on packed earth, the breath knocked from his lungs. Above him, the grate slammed shut with a sound like thunder. He lay there for a long time, staring up at the small square of red sky above him. The stars were coming out now, cold and distant. Somewhere up there, ships traveled between worlds, carrying people to places where water fell from the sky and rivers flowed free. He had never been on such a ship. He had been born on this dying world and he would die here. 3 days. That was how long condemned prisoners waited in the pit before exile. 3 days to think about what they had done. 3 days to make peace with death. One closed his eyes. He thought about Bora's smile when she touched the alien's hand. He thought about his father's peaceful eyes at the moment of death. He thought about his grandmother's stories of the old Earth, when humans were brave and kind and good. He had done what he believed was right. Whatever came next, he would face it without regret. The exile pit was cold at night. One sat with his back against the stone wall, his arms wrapped around his knees. Above him, the stars wheeled slowly across the sky. He could see them through the metal grate, small points of light in the endless darkness. Each star was a sun. Each sun might have worlds around it. Some of those worlds might have water. Real water falling from clouds, flowing in rivers, filling oceans so vast that a person could swim for days and never reach the shore. He had never seen an ocean. He had only heard stories. The first day passed slowly. The guards brought him a small cup of water in the morning and another in the evening, just enough to keep him alive for his execution. That was the cruelty of exile. They did not kill you in the pit. They made you strong enough to walk into the wasteland, and then they let the desert kill you instead. Came to see him in the afternoon. She stood above the grate, looking down at him with red eyes. Bora was not with her. "Where is she?" one asked. "With the neighbors. I did not want her to see you like this." One nodded. That was probably for the best. "I tried to talk to the council," said. Her voice was hoarse, like she had been talking for hours. "I told them you were sick. I told them the heat made you confused. They would not listen." "I was not confused." Closed her eyes. A single tear ran down her cheek, disappearing into the dust on her skin. "I know, that is what makes it worse." They sat in silence for a while. The red sun moved across the sky and shadows stretched and grew. Finally spoke again. "Do you remember what grandmother used to say about the old Earth?" One smiled faintly. She said many things. She said that humans used to believe in something bigger than themselves. She said they had stories about gods and heroes and miracles. She said they believed that kindness would be rewarded, that good would defeat evil, that the universe was not just empty space and dying stars. I remember. She was wrong, one. There are no gods, there are no miracles. There is only this world, this drought, this death. You gave your water to a stranger and now you will die for it. Where is the justice in that? Where is the reward? One looked up at his sister. Her face was hard and angry, but underneath the anger he could see something else. Fear. She was afraid of losing him just like she had lost their father. She was afraid of being alone. "Maybe the reward is not for me," one said softly. "Maybe it is for Bora. Maybe one day she will remember that her uncle did the right thing, even when it was hard. Maybe that memory will help her become the person she is meant to be." Made a sound that was half laugh and half sob. "You sound just like father." "I will take that as a compliment." The guards came and told her time was up. She reached through the grate and touched one's hand one last time. Her fingers were warm and dry. "I love you," she said. "I love you too. Take care of Bora." Then she was gone, and one was alone again. The second day was harder. The heat rose from the ground in waves, making the air shimmer and dance. One's lips cracked. His throat burned. The small cups of water they gave him were not enough. He could feel his body drying out, cell by cell, like the dead plants that crumbled to dust when you touched them. He slept when he could and dreamed strange dreams. He dreamed of the alien under the dead tree, its 3 eyes watching him. He dreamed of water falling from the sky, so much water that it filled the pit and lifted him up and carried him away. He dreamed of his father smiling at him from somewhere far away. When he woke, the dreams faded, and there was only the pit and the heat and the waiting. On the second night, something changed. One was lying on his back, staring up at the stars when he felt it, a vibration in the air, a hum so low that he felt it more than heard it. It seemed to come from everywhere at once, rising up from the ground and falling down from the sky. He sat up and looked around. The walls of the pit were shaking slightly. Small stones fell from the edges, clicking as they landed. The hum grew louder, deeper, pressing against his chest like a giant hand. Then the sky began to change. At first, one thought he was dreaming again. The stars were disappearing one by one, hidden behind something dark and vast. Clouds. Real clouds. They rolled across the sky like waves on an invisible ocean, thick and heavy and full of something that one had not seen in 11 years. He stood up, his legs shaking. His heart was pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. The clouds covered the entire sky now. The red light of the sun was gone, replaced by a strange gray darkness. The wind picked up, blowing dust into one's eyes. He wiped them and kept watching. And then, impossibly, wonderfully, miraculously, the rain began to fall. The first drop landed on one's face. He gasped and touched his cheek. His fingers came away wet, real water, falling from the sky. More drops followed, then more. Then the sky opened up completely and water poured down in sheets and curtains and walls of pure silver light. It soaked one's clothes in seconds. It filled the bottom of the pit, rising around his ankles. It washed the dust from his skin and the thirst from his throat. One tilted his head back and opened his mouth. He drank the rain as it fell, swallowing mouthful after mouthful of clean, fresh, perfect water. Tears ran down his face, mixing with the rain, and for the first time in years he did not worry about wasting them. Above him he could hear people screaming, but they were not screams of fear, they were screams of joy. He heard children laughing. He heard adults weeping. He heard voices calling out in wonder and disbelief. After 11 years of drought, After 11 years of rationing and suffering and death, the rain had finally come. And then a new sound joined the others, a voice, but not a human voice. It came from inside one's head, just like before, clear and calm and vast, like an ocean of thought pouring into his small human mind. One of you showed mercy to our scout when there was no reason for mercy. One fell to his knees in the rising water. The voice continued. One of you gave everything when you had nothing. We are the listeners. We have watched your species for 10,000 years, waiting to see what you would do when no one was watching, when there was no reward, when kindness cost everything. The rain kept falling. The water in the pit was up to one's waist now. He did not care. He could not stop listening. You have been found worthy. Above the clouds, something moved. One saw it through a gap in the storm, lit by flashes of lightning. A ship so large that it covered the entire sky from horizon to horizon. Its surface was dark and smooth, like the alien skin, and lights moved across it in patterns that hurt to look at. The voice spoke one last time. The kindness of one becomes the salvation of all. This is the law. This is the way. This is why we watch and wait and remember. Then the voice was gone, and there was only the rain and the thunder, and the sound of a world being reborn. One closed his eyes and let the water wash over him. His grandmother had been right. There were miracles after all. Rain did not stop. For 3 days it fell, gentle and steady, turning the cracked earth into mud and filling the empty wells. Rivers appeared where there had been only dust. Pools formed in low places, reflecting the gray sky like mirrors. Plants that had been dead for years suddenly showed small green shoots, pushing up through the wet soil toward the light. The colonists did not know what to do at first. Many of them had never seen rain before. Children born after the drought stood in the open with their mouths open, catching drops on their tongues. Old people wept and prayed to gods they had stopped believing in. Everyone touched the water again and again, as if they could not believe it was real. And above them the ship waited. It hung in the sky like a second moon, dark and vast and patient. No one knew what it wanted. No one knew why it had come. The colonial government sent messages, but there was no response. The military pointed weapons at it, but no one was brave enough to fire. Everyone just watched and waited and wondered. On the morning of the 4th day, the guards came to the exile pit. One was sitting in shallow water, his clothes soaked, his hair plastered to his head. He had not slept much. The rain made too much noise and his mind was too full of questions. When the grate opened above him, he looked up with tired eyes. "Come out," one of the guards said. His voice was different now, uncertain, even afraid. One climbed the ladder they lowered for him. His muscles were weak from 2 days without proper food, and his hands slipped on the wet metal. But he made it to the top, and he stepped out onto solid ground for the first time since his arrest. The world looked completely different. Water was everywhere. The dust roads had become streams of brown mud. The empty fountains were full and overflowing. People stood in groups, talking in low voices, pointing at the ship that still hung above them. Some of them noticed one and stared. The guard who had spoken before stepped forward. He was a young man, maybe 20 years old, with nervous eyes. "The council wants to see you," he said. "They have questions." "About what?" The guard looked at the sky, then back at one. "About everything." They took him to the council building in the center of the settlement. It was a large stone structure, one of the few buildings that had been built before the drought. Inside, the air was cool and damp. Water dripped from the ceiling in places where the old roof was leaking. The council chamber was full of people, not just the 5 council members, but also scientists and military officers and ordinary citizens who had pushed their way inside. Everyone was talking at once. The noise was so loud that one could barely think. When he entered, the room went silent. Every eye turned toward him. Some people looked at him with anger, some with fear, some with something that might have been hope. One stood still and waited. The head of the council was an old woman named Jin. She had white hair and deep lines on her face, carved there by years of worry and too little water. She stood up slowly and looked at one for a long moment. "You are the one who gave water to the alien," she said. It was not a question. "Yes." "You broke the law. You wasted a resource that could have saved a human life." "Yes." Jin walked around the table and stood in front of one. She was shorter than him, but her presence was large. She had led the colony through 11 years of drought. She had made hard choices that kept them alive, and now she was facing something she did not understand. "The ship up there," she said, pointing at the ceiling. "It spoke to us, to all of us. It said that we were being tested. It said that you passed the test." One did not know what to say, so he said nothing. "It said that you showed kindness when there was no reason for kindness. It said that you gave everything when you had nothing." Jin's voice was shaking slightly. "It said that because of you, we have been found worthy." The room was completely silent now. Everyone was listening. "I do not understand," Jin continued. "I do not understand why one person's choice matters so much. I do not understand why the universe would care about a bottle of water given to a dying stranger. But I know what I see. I see rain falling from the sky. I see wells filling up. I see children laughing for the first time in years." She reached out and took one's hands in her own. Her fingers were cold and thin. "The ship wants to talk to you," she said. "Only you. It will not speak to anyone else. It says that you are the representative of humanity. It says that what happens next depends on you." One felt the world tilt around him. This was too much. He was just a water salvager. He was just a man who had made a choice without thinking about the consequences. He was not a hero or a leader or a representative of anything. "I do not know what to say to them," he said honestly. Jin smiled faintly. It was the first smile one had seen on her face in years. "I do not think you need to say anything. I think you just need to be yourself." That seemed to work well enough the first time. They brought one to an open field outside the settlement. The rain had stopped for now, though the clouds still covered the sky. A crowd had gathered, thousands of people standing in the mud, watching and waiting. Among them, one saw and Bora. Bora broke free from her mother and ran toward him. She crashed into his legs and wrapped her arms around him. Her face was wet with rain or tears or both. "Uncle One, you are not going away anymore." One knelt down and hugged his niece. She smelled like rain and clean water. "No," he said, "I am not going away." Came up behind her daughter. She did not say anything. She just looked at her brother with eyes that were full of emotions too complicated to name. Then she put her hand on his shoulder and squeezed. A light appeared in the sky. It came from the ship, a beam of soft golden light that reached down from the clouds and touched the ground in front of one. The crowd gasped and stepped back. One stood up slowly, holding Bora's hand. Something was coming down the light. A figure, tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. The alien landed softly on the muddy ground. It was the same one had saved. He recognized the way it moved, the pattern of colors on its skin, the three eyes that looked at him with something that might have been gratitude. The alien walked toward him. The crowd was completely silent. Not even the children made a sound. It stopped in front of one and placed one long hand on his chest, just like before. And once again, words bloomed in his mind. "Hello, friend. I told you this would be answered." One laughed. He could not help it. The situation was too strange, too impossible, too wonderful. He laughed until tears ran down his face. "I remember," he said out loud. "You said it would be remembered." The alien made a sound that might have been its own kind of laughter. Then it turned and faced the crowd. Its voice entered every mind at once. "People of this world, you have been found worthy. not because of your strength or your technology or your numbers. You have been found worthy because of him." The alien pointed at one. "In 10,000 years of watching your species, we have seen much cruelty, much selfishness, much fear, but we have also seen moments of light, moments when a single human chooses kindness over survival, chooses mercy over safety, chooses to give rather than take." The alien's colors grew brighter, pulsing with slow waves of blue and green and gold. "We are the listeners. We are old beyond your counting. We have watched 100 species rise and fall among the stars. Most of them failed the test. Most of them proved that intelligence without compassion is just another kind of extinction." The alien looked directly at one. "But you proved that there is something in humanity worth saving, and because of that, everything will change." The clouds began to part. For the first time in 11 years, clear sky appeared above the colony, but it was not empty. The ship was gone, and in its place was something else. Something that made everyone gasp and point and cry out in wonder. A ring of light, vast and golden, circling the planet like a crown. "This is our gift," the alien said. "Water will fall on this world as long as your species endures. The drought is over, but that is only the beginning." The alien reached into its own chest and pulled out something that glowed with soft light. It held the object out to one. "Take this. It is the key to everything, to knowledge, to technology, to a network of worlds that have been waiting for humanity to prove itself." One looked at the glowing object. It was small, no bigger than his fist, but he could feel the power in it, the promise of it. "Why me?" he asked. The alien's 3 eyes crinkled in what might have been a smile. "Because you gave a stranger your last bottle of water. Because you chose to be kind when kindness cost everything. Because you are exactly what we hoped humanity could be." One reached out and took the gift. The moment his fingers touched it, the sky exploded with light. 5 years had passed since the rain came back. One stood on the balcony of his home and looked out at a world transformed. Where there had been cracked earth and dust, there were now green fields stretching to the horizon. Where there had been empty wells and rationed water, there were rivers and lakes and fountains that never ran dry. Where there had been despair, there was now hope. The golden ring still circled the planet, visible day and night. It was a constant reminder of the gift that had been given, a constant reminder of the test that had been passed. Children born after the rain called it the crown of kindness. They learned its story in school, along with the name of the man who had earned it. One was famous now, more famous than he had ever wanted to be. In the first months after the alien's visit, reporters had come from every settlement on the planet. They wanted to interview him. They wanted to know his story. They wanted to understand how one simple act of kindness had changed the fate of an entire world. He told them the truth. He told them about the dead tree and the dying alien. He told them about his father and his grandmother and the stories of old Earth. He told them about the choice he had made without thinking, without calculating, without expecting anything in return. Most of them did not understand. They kept asking what his strategy had been. What calculation had he made? What reward had he been hopping for? "I had water," he told them again and again. "The alien was thirsty, that is all." Eventually, the reporters stopped coming. The story became legend and the legend became history. One went back to his quiet life, though it was not quite as quiet as before. People recognized him in the streets. They smiled at him. They thanked him. Sometimes they cried. He never got used to it. The gift the alien had given him turned out to be exactly what it had promised, a key to everything. When scientists studied the glowing object, they found knowledge inside, technology that humanity had never imagined, medicine that could cure diseases they had suffered from for centuries, energy sources that were clean and endless, and most importantly, coordinates, maps to a network of worlds scattered across the galaxy. They were not alone in the universe. They had never been alone, But now, for the first time, they were welcome. The first ship left the planet 2 years after the rain. It carried scientists and diplomats and ordinary citizens who wanted to see what was out there. The listeners guided them to a world called Haven, where a dozen species lived together in peace. The humans were greeted as friends, as equals, as a species that had proven itself worthy. More ships followed, trade routes opened, knowledge flowed. Within 5 years, humanity had learned more than they had discovered in the previous 1,000 years. They learned about the history of the galaxy, about the species that had risen and fallen, about the test that the listeners had given to each of them. Most species had failed. Some had failed through violence. When they found the dying scout, they killed it, seeing only a threat or a resource to be taken. Some had failed through indifference. They walked past the scout and did nothing, too afraid or too busy to help. Some had failed through calculation. They helped, but only after negotiating a price, only after making sure they would benefit. Only a few had passed. Only a few had given freely without asking for anything in return. And those species now formed a brotherhood that stretched across the stars. Humanity was the youngest member, but they were members nonetheless. One thought about all of this as he stood on his balcony, watching the sun set behind the green hills. He was older now, with gray in his hair and lines on his face, but he was healthy. He was happy. He had more than he ever thought he would have. The door behind him opened, and small footsteps crossed the floor. "Uncle One." He turned and smiled. Bora was 11 years old now, tall and strong and curious. She had her mother's eyes and her grandmother's spirit. She wanted to be a scientist when she grew up. She wanted to study the listeners and learn their secrets. "Yes, little one. There are people here to see you, important people." One sighed. There were always important people who wanted to see him, politicians who wanted his endorsement, scientists who wanted his blessing for their projects, writers who wanted to tell his story for the 100th time. "Tell them I am busy," he said. Bora shook her head. "They are not from our world, they are from the listeners." That was different. One followed his niece inside, was standing in the main room, looking nervous. Beside her stood 3 figures that were definitely not human. 2 of them were species that one did not recognize, tall and thin with blue skin and 4 arms each. The third was the alien he had saved all those years ago. Its skin still shimmered with those beautiful shifting colors. The alien stepped forward when it saw one. "Hello, friend, it has been a long time." "Not so long," one said. 5 years is nothing compared to 10,000. The alien made its laughing sound. "True, but even we can feel impatient sometimes. There is something we wish to discuss with you." They sat down together, the humans and the aliens, in the simple room where one lived, brought water and food. The blue-skinned aliens did not eat, but they seemed to appreciate the gesture. The alien from the tree did the talking. "Humanity is doing well," it said. "Better than we expected. Your people are learning quickly. They are adapting to the galactic community with skill and grace. We are pleased." One nodded but said nothing. He could tell there was more to come. "But we have noticed something interesting. Your people keep asking the same question. Politicians, scientists, ordinary citizens, they all want to know the same thing." "What question?" The alien's 3 eyes focused on him. "They want to know why we chose this test, why we made kindness the measure of worth, why we believe that compassion matters more than power or intelligence or survival." One thought about this. It was a good question. He had wondered about it himself. "And what do you tell them?" "We tell them the truth. We tell them that the universe is vast and cold and full of dangers. We tell them that species survive not by being the strongest but by helping each other. We tell them that empires built on cruelty always fall, but kindness spreads and grows and lasts forever." The alien leaned forward. "But they do not believe us. They think there must be some other reason. some secret advantage that we are not sharing. They cannot accept that goodness is its own reward. One smiled faintly. That sounds like humans. Yes, which is why we have come to ask you something. The alien paused. We want you to tell your story, not just to your world but to all worlds. We want you to travel to the other species and share what you have learned. We want you to teach them what it means to be human at your best. One was silent for a long moment. Outside, he could hear children playing in the rain that still fell gently on the world. He could hear birds singing in trees that had not existed 5 years ago. He could hear the sound of a world that had been given a second chance. I am just a water salvager, he said finally. I am not a teacher or a leader or a philosopher. I just made a choice one day. That is all. The alien nodded. Yes, that is exactly why we want you. You are not special. You are not extraordinary. You are just a person who chose to be kind when it cost everything. And that is the message we need humanity to share. The alien stood and walked to the window. It looked out at the green fields and the setting sun and the golden ring in the sky. The universe is full of species who believe that power is everything, that survival requires cruelty, that the strong must destroy the weak. We have tried for 10,000 years to teach them otherwise, and we have failed more times than we have succeeded. It turned back to one. But you and your people, you have something that the universe desperately needs, not technology or weapons or resources. You have the ability to look at a dying stranger and see not an enemy or a burden but a person worth saving. That is rare. That is precious. That is why we chose you. Bora had been listening quietly the whole time. Now she spoke up. Uncle One, are you going to go? One looked at his niece. She was smiling at him with her mother's eyes. Behind her, nodded slowly, giving her permission. I think I have to, One said. The alien stepped toward him and extended its long, thin hand. One took it. The touch was warm, just like it had been all those years ago under the dead tree. Thank you, the alien said. Thank you for everything. Thank you for the water. Thank you for proving that kindness still exists. Thank you for giving us hope. One smiled. I had water, he said simply. You were thirsty, that is all. The alien laughed. And somewhere far above them, among the countless stars, other species looked down at a small green world and wondered about the strange creatures who had passed the test. They wondered how such short-lived, fragile beings had achieved what so many others had not. They wondered what secret humanity possessed that made them worthy of the listener's gift. The answer was simple. They had kindness. And that was everything.